Welcome back. We've been talking to Lynne Eldridge with Early Learning Coalition about ArtKidDoo.
Yes, my favorite.
The second Saturday in April, April 8th from 10 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon. What I like about your event, Lynne, unlike so many events that go multiple days or certainly all day, we were just at the Scottish Festival. That was from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. That's a long day.
Goodness.
Yours is 10 to 1.
Yeah.
You've got young children out there. This was designed for young children who peter out quickly.
Yes.
You bring them, they get to walk
your
around.
Grandparents.
Well, I wasn't going there, but yes, you're exactly right. We've been fortunate to be involved with the event since its inception. It grows every year.
Yes.
You've got great community partners.
We do.
So that we don't forget, I want to make sure that we mention Head Start,
Yes.
Washington County Art Council, the Office of Early Learning,
Yes.
Early Learning Coalition of Northwest
Yes.
Florida, in United Way, obviously always a partner. It's important that we always recognize those partners, but I think that the best way somebody can recognize is simply to attend and see for themselves. You guys start this is a long process for you. It's kind of like a duck floating across the surface of a lake. It looks like it's very serene and moving slowly, and underneath the surface things are really going crazy. First of all, you have a very large staff. This is all hands on deck as far as your ELC staff.
Pretty much. Yeah.
It's a team building effort in itself. I know it's probably not designed for that, but do you find that you get some of that as an ancillary value?
You know, we really do. It's interesting that our finance people, finance people, how they could.
The bean counters.
The accountants, they actually have already started collecting the recyclable. We use as much recycling material as we can to make their music instruments. They've already staked it out and said, no, we're doing music instruments this year. So I was shocked for them to be excited about actually going out and getting your hands dirty, but they're ready to go. So you're right, it's kind of, it catches you, it's contagious.
We've seen that transition or that morphing, if you will, in some of your staff. The first year, 5 years ago now, may have just been a little bit standoffish. Their comfort zone was in their little cube in your office in downtown Panama City. Second year, not as much. They started loosening up. Now they're out there dancing.
Everywhere, they are.
And so
bubbles everywhere.
And that team building effort of you all working together. As I started to say, there's a lot of work. You guys packed the trailer up, the truck up the night before, tables and chairs and all of the accoutrements that go along with it. You're out there bright and early, 8 or 9 o'clock on Saturday. I know that you've made a special effort to make provision for special needs children and adults, and I know you've set aside some time. Now, you open early. How does that work?
Well, we work through the schools, so we contact the schools and those classes that may want to come as a class early with the parents and things like that. So sometimes if you have a class full, you probably don't want to get into a crowd, so you do want to come early and just see how the children do, because it is hands-on. Every developmental stage will find something to do, so there's always going to be something a child or an adult can do, regardless of what their ability is. We just try to work through the schools to see if we can get those classrooms, if they'd like to come early and kind of be as a group together to come into the to ArtKidDoo before we open up to the general public.
And get those masses of screaming kids.
Right.
It's important to point out that Shivers Park is ADA compliant.
Yes, it is.
It's accessible completely. There's a bridge over the small stream there in front. The sidewalks, everything is totally accessible. So whether you have accessibility issues yourself and want to bring your children, or whether your children perhaps in a chair, whatever the situation, totally people friendly.
And you can go all the way around. If you're in a wheelchair or on crutches, there's a way to get around. So we call it the traffic pattern, but you're able to get where you'd like to go. So you don't have to get one place and just sit there. You can be involved even if you have different abilities.
You could argue that here in Northwest Florida that it's been summer for the last 2 months. I mean, not even spring. It seems like it went from what little fall we had, no cold weather hardly at all, and now we're back into summer. So many people maybe not come because they may think it's going to be hot, they're in the sun. You actually have almost every environment. There's a pavilion, there's shade, there's shade dappled areas where you can sit in the shade and have that breeze blowing. Or if you want to be out there and touch up your tan, you can sit out in the sun.
Do that.
So you've got the ability to accommodate almost any person who wants to enjoy your event.
Right. You can. And we have tents, so if you're doing some activities, most of the activities are under a tent. If you, now bubbles aren't, they're right out in the open, but so if you don't want to be out in the sun, you certainly can get under a tent, or as you said, under a tree. That's why I love the park, just even just around the edge of it, that I think that's where I kind of try to get them to put me right back over there where beautiful trees. But you're right. And I think we lost a tree one year. We had a huge tree
big
one
one.
year.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. What a shame that was. But there's still plenty. So you really don't have to worry about it. I typically am one of those people who sweat like crazy. I don't perspire. I really sweat. But I'm not. You just don't do that there. It's cool enough. And I think people are pretty much comfortable. And Paul, we're done by the time the day gets really hot, and that's one of the reasons that we did that 10 to 1, that people would not be out in the heat if it happens to be hot.
Everything changes over time. Nobody likes changes, but it is the way of the world. A couple of years ago, one of the features of the event was that you could go and fill out paperwork and apply for services. There is more of a stance now, I would imagine, mandated from the state, that much of this is now done online, so you no longer do that. The upside is it's actually very simple to get information and to register now. The downside is that no longer can I say that's a great reason for attending the festival. Talk a little bit about that process. Let's put your ArtKidDoo hat aside now and put on your ELC hat. We started off by talking about the fact that many people are challenged about getting into that workforce because they cannot afford childcare. To find out more about your events, or about what you offer, first of all, elcnwf.org.
That's right.
And that's on the screen right now. You can go there and you can actually find out more information, or you can actually fill out some paperwork. Is that correct?
You hit one button and you're able to apply. So it's very easy to just apply right online, and then you get a response back. And if there's some questions, you'll get those questions, you're able to respond to those. But actually, you can apply very easy from your telephone even, if you wish. We didn't have that option a couple of years back. And in fact, that was when voluntary pre-kindergarten, we needed to get it up and running, and there were a lot of parents in the Washington County area that had demonstrated that they would love to get into VPK. And Susan Gage, you know Susan, she's really the brains behind ArtKidDoo. She came up with the name, and she makes it all the magic happen. I just get to talk about it. She and her staff, all the staff are just amazing. But she said, why don't we bring some copiers or printers out here and let's see if we can. We thought maybe we'd have a few. Oh my goodness, they literally had come and didn't bring their children to ArtKidDoo, but they came to just apply for VPK, and we're thinking, but why didn't you bring your child? They just didn't even think or know, but they were there for one reason, and that was to make sure they got into services. You don't have to do that anymore. It's all online, and you can go right to our website, and very easy. Apply here.
The first couple of years, we found ourselves having to explain in the media to people what ArtKidDoo was to get them there.
Right.
No longer do we have that issue. Now we just have to let them know, hey, it's this weekend, and they come. I think that it's become very viral. People leaving don't want to leave. They wish it was another 3 hours long. On the contrary, your staff is ready to go home by about that time, because they're not there for that 3 hours. They're there for that 6 or 8 hours, plus the day before, plus the week before. And you mentioned they're already formulating their plans.
Yes, they are.
Work is the play of a child.
Yes.
You mentioned, and Susan did too on other occasions, one year you had a clay display and there were a couple of young children, and after a while you realized that they were just standing there. And talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. I love clay. I love messy anything. I'm that much of a child still, I think. And so I was at the clay table, and the clay is really an interesting medium to work with. So you wet your hands, and we're not talking about Play-Doh. We're really talking about sculpting clay, which is very different for children to get to use. It comes in a huge 25-pound block, and we cut it off. Do you want gray or brown? And these two children, a little girl and an older, looked like brother, had come up to the clay table and had asked, I asked them, would you like to make something? And they just nodded their head, really did not talk. And there were a lot of children around, so I didn't pay attention right away to what they were doing. And then I realized that very close to me, they were simply molding and mashing the clay. Just working the clay, working the clay. They were making nothing. That's very unusual for that age child, because they typically like a product. They want a product, but not these children. When I realized that they weren't making anything, I kept looking up at them, at their faces quickly, and realized they're not smiling, they're not laughing, they're not talking with the other children, they're just there together. And whatever was going on, Paul, those children needed to be at the clay and work through whatever was inside of them. And they continued to mash and mold and mash and mold. And when they were done, they just put their clay down and looked up and said thank you, and they were gone. So for those two children, I was so grateful. If we didn't touch anybody else that day, it would have been worth it.
The definition of a vacation is getting away from your everyday life and doing something different. I like to think of ArtKidDoo Saturday as a mini vacation. You know, bring the kids down. You don't have to worry about bringing supplies, materials. There's no cost involved.
There's
and
no
that's something
cost.
that we haven't even discussed. This is totally free.
Yes, it is.
There are no charges.
No.
I think that you might sell cotton candy, but if somebody comes up and wants it, you're certainly going to hand them a cotton candy. You feed them. There's something to drink. There's something to play. They end up dancing and singing and molding clay, whatever it is they happen to do. But it really is that little mini vacation, getting away for 3 hours. What's nice about Shivers Park, besides being accessible, besides being shady in a beautiful area, it's completely surrounded by a fence. It's secure.
That's what we love best
You
about.
bring your kids there, and there is a slide and jungle gym
you
and
can do
swings.
that.
There's all the things that the city provides. So even if you just want to let your kids run
That's
loose,
right.
you don't have to worry about them.
You don't.
We're not suggesting that you abandon them
No,
there,
no.
but it's a safe environment.
Right.
So what better place to enjoy a little mini
What better
vacation?
place? Yeah.
Congratulations to you and your staff. We know the work that it takes behind the scenes. So we don't sit there and go, oh, wow, great job, but, it didn't really take a lot of work. As you point out, and you're very gracious in saying so, Susan Gage and the rest of your staff, you also have a large number of community volunteers
Yes, we
that
do.
come to the table.
Right.
The Garden Club,
Yes.
Washington County Arts Council, we've mentioned them before, but they have a large
Yes.
group of people that already get the art part. They understand
They do get that.
that's what they're
Yes,
all about.
Right.
What has been the response from the Arts Council? I know it had to be a huge positive response.
They have been amazing, and I think that perhaps maybe the first year they weren't too sure, but they've been right there with Susan from then on. So I think that they were very comfortable. Once they actually saw, we meant that this is ArtKidDoo. We started this at a time when the schools were having to drop off different drama and chorus and band and other things like that. And that just broke our heart, because really the arts, really that's what helps a child to function in that higher order thinking, problem solving. So more than anything, that's what makes the difference, because they're having to portray something that is not, or create something, and that's always higher level learning than memorization. So that the Art Council being there, but Paul, the other thing, the churches have been just amazing, sending their youth to set up and break down and do whatever is necessary. They bring their youth choir to sing. They put on drama skits. And even you spoke about the, I call it Kung Fu, but what is it? It's
martial arts.
Martial arts. You know, they came not with the martial arts first, but with the character development first. This is why we do this. This is discipline, or this is respect, or this is... And that is so important today, that we bring the community, the family, and then a community that allows children to be children, but we are also still trying to bring about that character development and that growth. I learned that in my neighborhood. I learned that. And we want these children and this community. And you know, we have not been able to really kick off ArtKidDoo in any other county. So Washington County is unique in all of the things that you've talked about, but this is kind of their heart. This is what they do best, is just roll up their sleeves and make it happen. And I say that in Bay County. I say, listen, those folks know how to keep something going when the money's not there. And that's the truth. And it is this community and the churches and the businesses that come out, and just the Kiwanis. People are ready and willing to, when they see that we're here to stay, and that this really is about the children and families.
The date varies year to year. You are very gracious. You don't want to step on somebody who's having an event on an adjacent weekend, so you schedule it in such a way that hopefully there's nothing else going on, or at least nothing that you intrude upon knowingly. It also has to do with Easter and the way that falls, and spring break. So this year is the second Saturday in April. It's April 8th. It's the 5th annual ArtKidDoo.
Yes, it is.
I know I'll be there. I know you'll be there. Yes. If somebody wants to come, if they don't have children, if they just want to get involved,
absolutely,
come on, right?
Yes, come on. Yep. And we'll have, usually Susan comes up with these really bright shirts for staff to wear. I'm not sure what she's picked this year. The men who work with us are always excited to know what color they have to wear this year. So they can just grab any one of us, and we have no problem putting folks to work. None at all.
Thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for
Thanks for all you do.
It's our pleasure. Truly, it's our pleasure.
Second weekend in April. It's April 8th. It's ArtKidDoo, downtown Chipley, Shivers Park. It's free. What more can you say? There's an opportunity for your kid to get nasty messy. He's going to be every color of the rainbow by the time they leave. Dress them in something comfortable. Dress them in something that's wash and wear.
Yes.
But that's what it's all about. Get in the sand pile, play with clay, put sidewalk chalk down. There's art contest. We have dance contest. There's music. There's something to eat and drink. It's usually a nice day, but there's shade if it's too hot, and there's plenty of sun if you want to touch up your tan. It's the 5th annual ArtKidDoo, April 8th in downtown Chipley. We'll be right back.
Thank you.